Welcome to the first web tutorial series from Bits into Brains. I'm your host Tinus Nordia, and let's get into learning about Loopback.io. In this first video, we'll look at just introducing Loopback and getting a bit of a history about what it's used for, where it comes from, and what it's good for. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this tutorial. Let's get started. Let's start with the basics. So, you want to create a web application. Let's say you've never done this before. What do? Well, you start with Google. You say, Google, how to create a website. Usually one of the first results will be W3C. You go into W3C, you say, I need to learn HTML. You learn HTML. In learning HTML, you see, how do I style things? And you say, CSS. You learn CSS and say, how do I make this page more dynamic? JavaScript, jQuery. From there on, you go on to say, copying this menu section in every single page is becoming very tedious. How do I solve this? You start learning server-side application frameworks like Django, Ruby on Rails, Laravel on PHP. You use these frameworks to extend your website. Menu is now defined only in one place, which you add on every HTML page. More interactivity gets involved, your site's growing, you add a database, so on. All these things in building a web application. At some point, you'll stumble upon articles saying how to effectively split the front-end and back-end application and APIs. This is where Loopback.io comes in. In most cases, you will create your front-end application and server-side applications separate from each other, allowing you to effectively decouple your view from your application. This has the added benefit of allowing mobile applications, websites, and other APIs to use your single application. There's a lot of benefits other than these two, which I'm sure you'll find when Googling. An API is a fancy way of saying, here's a URL that can do something for you. You use this URL, you get something. You send something to this URL, something gets done. APIs use normal HTTP methods like get, put, post, and delete to perform operations on your application. It is exposed via URL, so you can have, for example, mywebsite.com/do something. That's an API endpoint. Sounds easy, right? Well, no. There are so many different languages, tools, platforms, frameworks, tutorials available out there that instruct you how to create an API. You will be baffled to choose one and baffled to even use a specific approach. You have so many choices. How do you create an API? You can use a programming platform like PHP, Ruby on Rails, Django, or what is being discussed in this video, Loopback.io on Node.js. What is Node.js? Well, Node.js is a popular language for web application development, and companies like eBay, PayPal, and Walmart have been using it with great success in serving millions and millions of requests over the past few years. Its scalability, asynchronicity, and overall design mentality allows you to create awesome web applications and especially APIs. Node.js has a built-in package manager and many resources available for you to use. Because of the very active Node.js community, the amount of packages regarding APIs and RESTful APIs are pretty overwhelming. Everyone has their own way of doing things, and nobody really agrees upon a single way of going about creating a RESTful API. This can lead to a lot of time being wasted in you doing research and choosing the correct way or the incorrect way of building a RESTful API. When starting Node.js development, you'll probably come across tutorials that'll teach you how to use Express.js. Express.js is a web server of sorts which allows you to build your application on. So it takes away the pain of creating a web server and allows you to build your application. But this is not the only one available to you. You can use Happy, Meteor, Sails, the list goes on. There are so many frameworks for you to choose from to create an API with. This tutorial looks at Loopback.io and the strong Loop application stack for the development of APIs specifically. What is Loopback? Loopback is a fully featured, highly extensible open source Node.js framework built by StrongLoop. Loopback enables you to create dynamic APIs with little or no coding. You define what you want or the blueprint, and Loopback builds it for you. To create a model, you simply create a configuration file that specifies the details of that model, and Loopback creates it for you. Out of the box, Loopback comes with a simple ORM, which adds create, read, update, and delete capabilities to your models automatically. You also can add several data sources to your models, whether that is relational databases, NoSQL databases, a SOAP API, or a REST API. Adding them to your models are all done via configuration. You could also incorporate model relationships or advanced access control for complex APIs. There are geolocation, file, and push notifications plugins available for Loopback, which allows integration with these services. To create mobile apps or a web frontend for a Loopback-based API is also made easy by the fact that you can generate Android, iOS, and AngularJS client SDKs. You can also run your application on-premise or in the cloud, depending on your needs. Loopback also gives you a tool to explore your API and test it, called the Loopback API Explorer. More about the Loopback API Explorer will be discussed in the second video, as well as how the configuration of these models are done. We mentioned that Loopback is built by StrongLoop. StrongLoop also adds some tools to Loopback, which are all optional but improve Loopback. They are graphical tools for working on top of your Loopback application, and they handle not only your API, but the things that come after creating your API. Things like deployment, management, monitoring your application, and debugging your application. The history of StrongLoop and Loopback. StrongLoop, the parent company of Loopback, was founded in 2012. The co-founders of StrongLoop were very prominent people in the Node.js community, and they are main contributors to the core Node.js application. The founders of StrongLoop are also currently maintaining one of the biggest Node.js packages out there called Express. Loopback was released in 2013 and marked a big milestone for StrongLoop. StrongLoop was acquired in 2015 by IBM, which was a very good move, as now a big enterprise company acquired Loopback, which brings a lot of capabilities and trust to Loopback. What are some of the pros and cons of Loopback? Well, the first pro of Loopback is that it's extremely fast and efficient in allowing you to create an API. Creating an API went from hours or perhaps even days to minutes. Loopback provides you with Android, iOS, and Angular SDKs that allow you to easily integrate with a Loopback-based API on those platforms. You can add extremely fine-grained security to your models. You can use some of the models that are already provided by Loopback by default, things like a user model. Loopback is also very configurable when needed, but yet does not need to be configured if you wish to not do so. The documentation for Loopback is also quite good. You will always find what you need, whether it be on their own documentation or in the forums. Another benefit of using Loopback is that there is a full-time team working on it. It's not only an open source based project. There are also official support available for more enterprise clients. One of the biggest problems with Loopback is that you do need a knowledge of Node.js and Express.js to go in deeper with Loopback. So there is a steep learning curve to Loopback. Why should you use Loopback? Well, you can use one of the other libraries available there, but if you use Loopback, you get a lot of added features and functionalities, like the Android, iOS, and Angular SDKs, add-on components for file, push notifications, the fact that you can run it on your local PC, on the cloud, wherever you want. The fact that Loopback is so flexible while still giving you access to core features and functionalities without requirements makes it very, very good to use. One thing that I have not mentioned yet is the fact that they have a command line interface tool or a API builder that's a graphic tool. Your models could be dynamic, linked to a schema. You can also add asset principals if you want. the relationships you can add to models, everything is just done in a way that's easy to understand, intuitive to do, and fast. Regarding performance, as Loopback is based on Node.js, we know that it's very fast. When compared to Java for high concurrency tests, it usually comes out on top. You can serve millions of requests without even breaking a sweat. Where is Loopback being used and who's using it? Well, obviously Loopback is used in creating APIs and building web applications, or let me rather say building the backends for those web applications. Companies like GoDaddy, the Bank of America, Symantec, and the US Department of Energy use Loopback quite extensively. Loopback provides with two licensing options, the first being the MIT open source license, which is the normal open source version of Loopback, which anybody can use. It's also free to use. There's also a strong loop license available, which entails payment. So you buy a subscription from StrongLoop and they add several things to your Loopback package, including extensive support. What do I like about Loopback? Well, as I'm a developer, I like to reuse as much as possible. I like to be smart and I like to be efficient. Luckily for me, Loopback allows me to do so when I want to create an API. I define what I want, at what location I want it, and where it can get it from. Bam, you have your API available. Another very important point for me is that Loopback is built on top of Express. Like I mentioned earlier, that most people starting with Node.js will start with Express.js as their server. So knowledge gained using Express is not lost, it's built upon. Middleware that you created on Express can be used directly in Loopback, as Loopback is built on top of Express. The API Explorer is an awesome tool for testing your API and visually seeing all the endpoints and documentation. It's a great way to demo your API without having to write complex functions to do so. Access control and security built into Loopback makes it worth your while for more complex APIs as well as easy APIs, as those are all completely optional. The AngularJS, Android and iOS client libraries are also very, very great, especially if you want to create a modern web application where you have a single API connecting to your databases and a multitude of front ends or clients. The documentation of Loopback is very extensive and very clear. I've never been in a situation where I could not find what I want within the first 10 minutes of searching from their documentation. Several component integrations are very, very nice. An example of this would be, say you want to have a area where somebody can upload their profile pictures, then those profile pictures could be stored on Amazon S3. You don't have to create that adapter yourself because the data storage adapter or file adapter, is already built into Loopback. You just specify where the files need to be stored and it takes care of the rest. Another benefit is also that you can host it where you want. If you want to use Amazon AWS, you can do so. If you want to use Google, you can do so. If you want to use your own dedicated server, you could do that as well. The fact that Loopback is so flexible in terms of creating an API that fits you is astonishing. It allows you to do so at an incredible pace as well as in an awesome manner. That briefly sums up our introduction to Loopback and touching on a lot of other topics just to give a feel for where Loopback fits in and what it is about. Thank you for watching the video. In the next video, we'll probably be doing a getting started tutorial on Loopback or a hello world on Loopback. You could also find more information on the YouTube playlist that this video is part of if you want to delve deeper into Loopback right now. Please like, subscribe and share if you want, and yeah, stay tuned. Thank you for watching Bits into Brains.